We launched the Mamdani Monitor this morning. We are simply going to track, again, not what he says in a single speech.
Wow, that was racist. Buckle in at 1.5 or 2 times speed, fam, because we're doing a long one today. So that was Jonathan Greenblatt. He was on Morning Joe the day after Zohran Mamdani's stunning victory, talking about how they've created a Mamdani Monitor. You know, for somebody who's so hypersensitive about everything being a trope, you would think that he would understand talking about a Muslim as somebody who needs to be monitored is pretty problematic. When you consider the history in this country, the recent history since post 9/11, where innocent Muslims around the country were monitored illegally by the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA for simply existing while Muslim, maybe calling it that really isn't a great look. But you know why creating a Muslim Mamdani Monitor didn't really occur to him that that was a really bad look? Because he's a racist. Do you understand? He is Islamophobic. I don't know what people aren't getting about this. I think that people think that because he's the head of the Anti-Defamation League, which is supposed to be an anti-discrimination organization, that gives him some type of authority. But make no mistake, this guy is a Jewish supremacist. He is an anti-Arab racist. He is an Islamophobic bigot. And if you don't believe me, just go look up some of the shit that he said about interracial marriage. The ADL is a hate group. They are not there to protect the civil liberties of anyone, despite the fact that they claim to be a civil rights organization and a civil liberties organization. And if part of their mission is supposedly combating anti-Semitism, then why is it that you yourself say that anti-Semitism has only continued to go up? Wouldn't that mean you're failing at your job, Greenblatt? I need you guys to understand the level of racism that needs to exist for Morning Joe to push back, okay? Morning Joe and everybody on this panel are Zionists, and they're all already predisposed to Islamophobia and anti-Muslim and anti-Arab bigotry. So when you're too racist for Joe Scarborough, you know it's bad. He did that nasty thing that a lot of people do where they're trying to like smear someone by proxy, where he brings up like anti-Semitic incidents and then tries to blame that on Mamdani. And then when Joe Scarborough, rightfully, and I was actually surprised he did it, was like, you're not saying that is Mamdani's fault, is it? He's like, you'd have to ask him. Ooh, that's some dirty shit. That is some dirty shit. He said it on here, but then he also went on Brian Kilmeade's show to talk about how he's monitoring all of the personnel decisions that Zohran's gonna make and how outrageous it is that he introduced the Not on Our Dime Act. And I want you guys to pay attention to the grotesque manipulation that he tries to present here when he says, oh, the Not on Our Dime Act is some discriminatory measure to stop people from being able to donate to Jewish charities. And then I'll tell you actually what the fuck the Not on Our Dime Act is.
God is my witness that every Jewish New Yorker knows that ADL has your back. And we will make sure with everything we've got, we hold this mayor accountable. I'm not the one who got elected to office. I'm not the one who's responsible for the largest Jewish community on the planet Earth, like in the city with the most Jews.
What is this hysteria?
And so it's not for me on bended knee to go to him. It's for him to tell Jewish New Yorkers, again, however they choose to worship, if at all.
He has. What do you want him to do?
New Yorkers feel safe. And I am telling you, Brian, the data shows us right now that they are not safe. And it's not safe.
Then you failed at your job.
He was an assemblyman in Albany, Brian. He sponsored a bill, one of his only bills, called the Not on Our Dime Act, that would have prevented New Yorkers from donating to charities in Israel if he didn't like their
policy. And he's for the BDS movement, too.
Or the BDS movement, which he says is a nonviolent movement, and yet it causes violence.
Except it's literally not. BDS stands for boycott, divest, and sanction. Those are all definitionally non-violent. Excuse me, boycotting is the right and tradition of every American. How dare you try to take that from us? Would you have called conservatives violent when they boycotted Bud Light, or liberals violent for boycotting Disney over Kimmel? Of course you wouldn't. So why are you calling it that here? Words have meaning. So many lies and hysteria in that short clip. Like, what do you want him to do? He has already said that he is dedicated to protecting Jewish New Yorkers. And you're hysterically crying on here, telling him it's not enough, it's not enough, it's not. What do you want him to do? Do you want him to pledge that he'll discriminate against every Arab and Palestinian and Muslim to make you feel better? And let's talk about the Not on Our Dime Act, the one that he despicably pretends is just some innocuous charity. Oh, he just is trying to stop people from donating to charities in Israel. You want to know what that was? It was a bill that was introduced in 2023 before October 7th to stop the funding and the tax exemption of illegal settlements in occupied Palestine. You've all seen the videos, haven't you, of the violent settlers murdering lambs and gouging their eyes out last week, beating a woman, picking olives in the head until she collapsed and was in the ICU. A mob of violent settlers last week chased down an American journalist. I don't think most people understand, I certainly didn't before, how insane it is that even though the U.S. position, and this is back in 2023, was that under international law, we recognize that these settlements are violent and illegal. We as a country were still allowing and oftentimes subsidizing these people to go over there and violently displace Palestinians from their land on our money. And this bill in New York was to say, we're not paying for that. We in New York are not going to pay for violent settlers to come from America and go there and beat the shit out of Palestinians and then steal their shit. And we pay for it. No, thank you. That's what Jonathan Greenblatt is calling, he doesn't want you to support charities. That's charity? If you want just one more example of this insanity and how prevalent it is in our country, synagogues in New Jersey and New York support violent settler action with our tax dollars, and they use the cover of charity and they use the cover of religion to do it. It is absolutely despicable. It is deplorable. It is against everything we claim to support in human rights. And it is insane that a bill wasn't already passed. Not a single American dime should be going to support that terrorism. But the real question people should be asking is, why are we supporting terrorism? Why are we allowing and subsidizing state-sponsored terrorism? Funding terrorist settlers to go break international law, whether that be through American taxpayer money or charitable organizations, is sponsoring terrorism. And not just breaking international law, breaking our own stated law. The U.S. position is still against the illegal settlements and the annexation of the occupied West Bank. And then he has the fucking nerve to come out here and criticize Zohran Mamdani for introducing a bill like that. A bill that shouldn't even be necessary because it's already against U.S. and international law. I really need everybody to stop taking the Apartheid Defense League seriously. This is a racist organization, it's a bigoted organization, and a pretty openly Islamophobic organization with such initiatives like, let's track the new Muslim mayor. And make no mistake about it, that Mamdani is a Muslim tracker is meant to intimidate him. And because they operate like the mafia, it's meant to send a message to say, that's a nice new mayoralship you have there. Be ashamed something happened to it. People need to stop giving in to these bullies. Mayor-elect Mamdani owes this hate group nothing.